The battle for Earth orbit raged for 18 hours, but the outcome was decided in the first 30 minutes. The battle lasted 18 hours, but the real war ended much faster. By hour 6, the Quorum fleet had lost over 400 ships. By hour 12, their formation had completely collapsed. By hour 18, only 86 Quorum vessels managed to escape into deep space. Their FTL drives finally restored as they fled beyond the Silence Pulse's range. 761 capital ships destroyed or captured, the largest military defeat in Quorum history, and it happened in less than a day. Commander Lee stood on the bridge of eternal dominance, now firmly under human control. Veshkar sat in restraints, watching his former command staff work under human supervision. Around them, Quorum crew members surrendered peacefully. They were not cowards. They simply recognized defeat when it stared them in the face. "You trapped us," Veshkar said quietly. "Everything. The failures. The diseases. The colony collapse. All of it was theater." Lee nodded. "We knew you were watching. We gave you a show. You saw what you expected to see. A young species dying from its own mistakes. You never considered that we might be smarter than we looked. How long were you planning this?" 3 years of active planning. But humanity has been preparing for first contact for over a century. We always knew someone was out there. We just didn't know if they would be friends or enemies. Veshkar looked at the tactical displays showing the destroyed Quorum fleet. "You fought with such ferocity, such coordination. We thought humans were divided, chaotic. We are divided about a lot of things. Politics, religion, resources, but when someone threatens all of us, when someone tries to destroy humanity, we stop arguing and start fighting. Together." Major Cho walked through Olympus Base, now fully revealed as the military fortress it truly was. Colonists stared in shock at the underground facilities, the hidden troops, the massive weapon systems. Many were angry at being deceived. Others were simply relieved to be alive. "Why didn't you tell us?" one colonist demanded. "We thought we were dying. We thought Earth had abandoned us." Cho understood their anger. Because the Quorum could read minds, not human minds, but they had ways of detecting lies. Every person they interrogated needed to genuinely believe Mars was failing. If you had known the truth, they would have detected it. The deception had to be complete. "So you let us suffer? Let our children cry themselves to sleep?" "Yes, and I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life." "But it kept you alive. Every single one of you. 0 civilian casualties during the battle. That was the goal. That was always the goal." Captain Song supervised the capture of intact Quorum vessels. The Ghost Fleet had taken 43 ships mostly undamaged. Inside them was technology that would advance human science by decades. FTL drives, advanced weapons, shielding systems, manufacturing techniques. But more valuable than technology was information. Quorum databases contained everything: star charts, diplomatic records, military intelligence, and most importantly, evidence. Dr. Kim worked through the captured files in her laboratory, translating and cataloging. What she found made her sick. 17 civilizations destroyed. The Quorum called it guidance, but the files told a different story. Species that refused to submit were sabotaged into extinction, economic collapse, biological weapons, environmental disasters. The Quorum would push a species to the edge, then offer to save them in exchange for total submission. Those who accepted became vassal states. Those who refused died. But there was something else in the files. References to something called the Remnant, an ancient civilization that disappeared millions of years ago. They had left behind technology caches hidden across the galaxy. The Quorum had spent thousands of years hunting down every species that found Remnant technology. Earth had found 3 Remnant caches, one in the Pacific Ocean, one in Antarctica, one on Mars. That was why humanity's technology had advanced so quickly. The Quorum had not been afraid of human nature. They had been afraid that humans might unlock what the Remnant had tried to preserve. Dr. Yun worked with Dr. Seo to analyze Remnant artifacts more carefully. They had been studying the caches for years, but always carefully, slowly. Now they understood why the Quorum had been so desperate to stop them. The Remnant had been building something. A great work, a project that spanned the entire galaxy, but they had been destroyed before completing it. Their caches were not just gifts of technology. They were instructions, pieces of a puzzle waiting for someone to finish what they had started. 3 months after the battle, Admiral Kang stood before the United Earth Assembly. Every nation was represented. For the first time in history, humanity spoke with one voice. The Quorum Collective has been exposed, Kang announced. Evidence of their crimes has been broadcast across FTL channels. 17 extinct civilizations, countless others enslaved. The galaxy now knows what they truly are. She pulled up holographic images of Quorum homeworlds. Human ships orbited each one. Not attacking, just present. A reminder. We are offering the Quorum terms. Complete withdrawal from conquered territories. Reparations paid in technology and resources. An eternal ceasefire treaty. Human space is now forbidden territory. Any Quorum vessel that enters the Sol system will be destroyed without warning. General Park stepped forward. The Quorum Council has accepted our terms. They have no choice. Their military is crippled. Their reputation is destroyed. Other species they oppressed are rebelling. The collective is collapsing. What about the other species? Someone asked from the assembly. The ones the Quorum conquered? Commander Silva answered. We are offering them alliance. The Terran Alliance. Free association of independent species. Mutual defense. Technology sharing. No empire, no domination. Just cooperation between equals. It was a radical idea. Most galactic civilizations were hierarchical. Someone always ruled. Someone always served. The concept of true equality between species was almost unheard of. 23 species accepted immediately. More would follow. Captain Tay received a commendation for his early detection of Quorum sabotage. Admiral Kang personally gave him his medal. You were right, she said. About everything. I am sorry I could not tell you sooner. I understand now, Tay replied. The deception had to be complete. Even from our own people, especially from our own people. The Quorum were thorough. They could have captured any of us. Interrogated us. If too many humans knew the truth, the plan would have failed. Tay looked at the medal, then at Kang. What happens now? We won the battle, but there is a whole galaxy out there. Kang smiled. Now we stop hiding. We stop pretending to be weak. Humanity takes its place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as victims, as equals. Commander Lee was promoted to captain and given command of the captured flagship, now renamed Earth's Defiance. His mission was exploration. The Quorum files mentioned hundreds of unexplored regions, mysteries the Quorum had been too afraid to investigate. Lee would investigate them instead. Lieutenant Bay became commander of the new fighter academy. She would train the next generation of pilots. Thousands of young humans wanted to join after seeing the battle recordings. Humanity's navy would grow from hundreds of ships to thousands within a decade. Major Cho was given command of Mars' orbital defense. The planet was being transformed into a shipyard. Within 5 years, Mars would produce more military vessels than Earth. The Red Planet would become humanity's shield, always watching for threats from deep space. Colonel Han expanded the asteroid network. What had been 500 hidden platforms would become 5,000. No one would ever trap humanity in the Sol system again. The asteroid belt was now the most heavily fortified region of space in the known galaxy. Dr. Yun, Dr. Sco, and Dr. Kim formed the Remnant Research Institute. Their mission was to understand what the ancient civilization had been trying to accomplish. Early results suggested something extraordinary. The Remnant had been preparing the galaxy for something, building infrastructure that spanned millions of worlds. For what purpose? No one knew yet. But humanity would find out. Captain Song took Earth's Defiance and a fleet of exploration vessels beyond the galactic rim. The remnant caches pointed toward something in deep space, something the Quorum had been too afraid to seek. Song was not afraid. None of them were. Fear was for species that had something to lose. Humanity had almost lost everything. They had been hours away from extinction. Then they had turned the tables and won. What could possibly scare them now? Admiral Kang gave one final speech to Earth's population. It was broadcast across every human colony, every ship, every station. 3 months ago, we faced extinction. An enemy vastly superior tried to eliminate us. They failed. Not because we were stronger, not because we were smarter, but because we were patient. Because we planned. Because when they thought we were dying, we were actually preparing. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Quorum watched us for 200 years. They studied our wars, our violence, our chaos. They concluded we were dangerous and had to be controlled or destroyed. They were right about one thing. We are dangerous, but not in the way they thought. We are dangerous because we adapt. We learn, we overcome. Every disaster makes us stronger. Every crisis teaches us something. The quorum pushed us to the edge thinking we would bray. At exactly or 400 Earth Standard Time, Dr. SEO activated the silence pulse. The device was no larger than a briefcase, but its effect rippled across the entire solar system in less than a second. Quantum entanglement frequencies disrupted. FTL communication channels collapsed. The quorum fleet suddenly went deaf and blind to everything beyond their immediate sensors. Aboard Eternal Dominance, Commander Veshkar saw his communication console go dark. What happened? Restore FTL communications immediately. His technical officer worked frantically at the controls. I cannot, Commander. Something is interfering with quantum frequencies. All our ships are affected, all of them, every vessel in the fleet. We cannot communicate with homeworlds. We cannot coordinate between battle groups. Local communications still work, but nothing beyond 1 light second. Veshkar felt the first touch of concern. This should not be possible. Human technology was primitive. They should not be able to interfere with quantum systems. Find the source of the interference and destroy it. But it was already too late. Captain Song gave the order from his flagship far beyond Neptune. Ghost Fleet, power up. All ships execute attack pattern Omega. 200 warships came to life. Engines that had been cold for 6 months roared to full power. Weapon systems activated. Shields materialized around hulls. The Ghost Fleet began its attack run toward Earth orbit. They did not rush. They did not charge in recklessly. They moved in perfect formation, accelerating steadily using every trick of stealth technology humanity had developed. By the time quorum sensors detected them, they would be too close to stop. Colonel Han pressed the button that activated the asteroid network. Across the belt, 500 mining operations transformed. False rock faces split open. Hidden weapons emerged. Railguns swung toward pre-calculated firing positions. Missile tubes opened to space. Han had spent 2 years plotting every trajectory. He knew exactly where every quorum ship would be. The asteroids had been positioned specifically to create overlapping fields of fire. All batteries, Han said calmly. Fire. The first volley was pure kinetic hell. Thousands of solid metal slugs accelerated to impossible speeds by magnetic railguns. They covered the distance to Earth orbit in minutes. No warning, no time to dodge, just sudden, devastating impact. The first quorum capital ship died before its crew knew they were under attack. A railgun slug punched through its hull at 3% of light speed. The kinetic energy vaporized everything inside. The ship came apart like a toy. Then the missiles arrived. Not advanced weapons, not fusion warheads or antimatter bombs, just thousands of simple nuclear missiles, the kind humanity had been building for over a century. They swarmed toward the quorum fleet like angry hornets. Quorum point defense systems activated, shooting down missiles by the hundreds. But there were too many. Far too many. Some got through. Nuclear fire bloomed in Earth orbit as human warheads detonated against alien shields. Veshkar watched his tactical display in disbelief. Where did these weapons come from? The asteroids. They were hiding weapons in the mining operations. A railgun slug hit Eternal Dominance. The ship's shields held, but barely. Warning alarms screamed throughout the vessel. Return fire, Veshkar ordered. Target those asteroid installations. But before his weapons could acquire targets, a new threat emerged. Lieutenant Bay felt her submarine shake as the launch sequence initiated. Magnetic fields grabbed her fighter and pulled it upward through the launch tube. Water rushed past. Pressure mounted. Then suddenly she was free, breaking through ocean surface, atmosphere, and gravity in one continuous acceleration. Her fighter's engines ignited as she reached space. Around her, dozens of other fighters appeared, all launching from different points across Earth's oceans. Within 60 seconds, over 4,000 human fighters were in space, rising toward the quorum fleet. The quorum had never seen anything like it. Ships launching from underwater? Impossible. Yet there they were, small and fast, swarming upward in attack formations. Bay targeted a quorum destroyer. Her weapons were simple. Kinetic cannons and short-range missiles. Nothing fancy. But she was fast, and the quorum shields were designed to stop big weapons, not swarms of small ones. She fired her entire payload at point-blank range. Kinetic rounds hammered the destroyer's shields. Missiles followed, detonating in rapid succession. The shield collapsed. Her final burst of kinetic fire punched through the hull. The destroyer began to tumble, atmosphere venting from dozens of holes. Multiply that by 4,000 fighters all attacking simultaneously, and the Quorum fleet started to hemorrhage ships. Then Luna Base activated. Engineer Nam watched his power displays spike to maximum. The entire dark side of the moon lit up with weapons fire. Particle beams lanced out, each one carrying enough energy to boil oceans. They crossed the distance to Earth orbit in seconds and burned through Quorum ships like paper. Missile batteries fired in continuous volleys. Thousands of missiles. Tens of thousands. The moon had been storing ammunition for 3 years. Now it unleashed everything. Kinetic accelerators threw chunks of lunar rock at relativistic speeds. They hit with more force than nuclear weapons. Quorum ships simply disintegrated under the impacts. In 90 seconds, Luna Base destroyed 43 capital ships. Veshkar could not believe what he was seeing. The moon was supposed to be dead. They had destroyed it months ago. How was it firing? How did it have this much power? We were deceived, his tactical officer said, voice shaking. This entire operation was a trap. They let us think we were winning. Another railgun slug hit Eternal Dominance. This time the shields failed. The slug tore through the ship's midsection, destroying half the engineering deck. The ship lurched violently. "Get us out of orbit," Veshkar ordered. "All ships retreat to defensive positions." But there was nowhere to retreat to. Captain Song's Ghost Fleet arrived at maximum attack speed. 200 human warships built specifically to fight this battle. They were smaller than Quorum capital ships, but they were faster, more maneuverable, and they knew exactly how to exploit Quorum weaknesses. Song's tactical displays showed him everything. The Quorum fleet was in chaos. No coordination. No communication. Every ship fighting alone, perfect, all ships weapons free. Target capital ships first. Remember your training. Short bursts, constant movement, never stay still. The Ghost Fleet tore into the Quorum formation like wolves among sheep. Human captains had spent years studying Quorum tactics. They knew the aliens preferred standoff combat, using long-range energy weapons, so humans stayed close, forcing knife-fighting ranges where their kinetic weapons had advantage. The battle was not elegant. It was brutal, grinding, and desperate, but it was working. Major Cho watched from Mars as Quorum ships in orbit began dying. She keyed her internal channel. All units opened the doors. It's time. Across Olympus Base, hidden hangar bays opened. 3,000 fully armed soldiers emerged in combat armor. Fighter craft launched from underground facilities. Missile batteries rose from beneath the Martian soil. The Quorum ships blockading Mars suddenly found themselves under attack from a planet they thought was helpless. Missiles rose in swarms. Fighters engaged at close range. Even the base's defensive weapons, supposedly broken, activated and joined the fight. On Earth, Captain Tay stood at his battle station, watching in absolute shock as the battle unfolded. The asteroids, the submarine fighters, Luna Base, the Ghost Fleet, Mars fighting back, all of it hidden, all of it prepared, all of it waiting for this exact moment. He understood now. Admiral Kang had not ignored his warnings. She had been way ahead of him. Years ahead. Everything he thought was failure was actually preparation. All stations, Kang's voice came over the command channel. Press the attack. They cannot coordinate. They cannot retreat. We have them exactly where we want them. Aboard Eternal Dominance, Commander Lee heard the chaos and knew it was time. His cell door was not particularly strong. It was designed to hold a defeated human, not a special operations soldier who had been planning escape for weeks. Lee kicked the door 3 times in exactly the right spot. The locking mechanism broke. He stepped into the corridor just as his 4 fellow soldiers emerged from their cells. Phase 2 complete, Lee said. Time for Phase 3. Let's take this ship. The Quorum guards did not expect resistance. They were dealing with an overwhelming attack from outside. Internal security seemed less important. That was their mistake. Lee and his team moved through the ship like ghosts. They had mapped every corridor. They knew where every vital system was located. 5 humans against thousands of aliens should have been suicide. But the humans had studied Quorum tactics for 3 years. They knew how the aliens fought. They knew their reaction times. They knew their weaknesses. More importantly, the Quorum had never fought humans in close combat. They did not know what humans were capable of when cornered and desperate. Lee's team reached the bridge in 12 minutes. They killed 18 guards on the way, losing none of their own. When they burst onto the bridge, Veshkar turned in shock. "How did you escape?" "This is impossible." Lee raised his weapon. "You should have studied us better. You watched us for 200 years, but you never understood us. Humans don't give up. We don't surrender. And we definitely don't forget." The Quorum celebrated aboard their command carriers. They had won without firing a shot. Earth's governments were in chaos. Mars was begging for mercy. The human military seemed paralyzed with fear. Everything was proceeding exactly as it had with the 17 civilizations before. Commander Veshkar stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominance, watching Earth rotate below. The planet was beautiful, blue and green and white, full of life, full of potential, but potential was dangerous. Better to guide it, control it, or if necessary eliminate it. Status of human compliance. Veshkar asked his tactical officer. They are arguing among themselves. Some want to surrender, others want to fight, but their weapons are primitive. Their ships are slow. They pose no threat. Veshkar felt satisfaction. This was always the pattern. The young species fractured when faced with superior power. They fought each other instead of the true threat. It made the Quorum's work easier. What Veshkar didn't know was that every argument, every protest, every desperate plea was staged. Human actors performed for Quorum censors. Politicians gave speeches designed to sound weak and divided. Military officers held press conferences where they admitted having no plan. Colonel Han watched from his asteroid command post as Quorum ships settled into their positions. The aliens were thorough. They had vessels positioned at every orbital altitude. They controlled all approach vectors. No ship could leave Earth without passing through their blockade. It was exactly what humanity needed. Han's mining operation looked like dozens of others scattered through the asteroid belt. Old equipment, slow computers, tired workers extracting minerals from dead rocks. The Quorum had scanned these operations months ago and dismissed them as harmless. They never scanned deep enough to find the massive railguns hidden inside the asteroids. They never detected the nuclear missiles camouflaged as mining explosives. They never noticed the quantum-shielded communication arrays that let Han talk to every other mining operation in the belt. 500 asteroids, 500 hidden weapons platforms, all aimed at Earth orbit. Lieutenant Bay sat in her submarine 300 meters below the Pacific Ocean surface. Her vessel was designed to launch spacecraft, an idea so crazy that the Quorum never considered it possible. You can't launch ships from underwater. The pressure would crush them. The water would interfere with engines, unless you understood physics better than the enemy expected. Dr. CO had spent 15 years developing the launch technology. Magnetic acceleration combined with gravity manipulation taken from captured Quorum probes. The submarines could fire small fighters straight up through the ocean, through the atmosphere and into space in under 40 seconds. Bay commanded one of 83 such submarines. Between them, they carried over 4,000 fighters. The Quorum didn't even know they existed. Far beyond Neptune, Captain Song walked through the flagship of the Ghost Fleet. 200 warships, built in absolute darkness and silence over 30 years. No one on Earth except the highest command knew they existed. The Quorum certainly didn't. Song's ship was called Retribution. It seemed like a good name for what was coming. The Ghost Fleet had been drifting inward for 6 months, their engines cold, their systems powered down to minimum. They looked like debris, space junk, natural objects caught in the sun's gravity. The Quorum sensors swept past them hundreds of times without noticing. Now they were in position. Still dark, still silent, waiting for the signal. Dr. CO sat in her laboratory beneath Sol, surrounded by captured Quorum technology. She had been one of the first humans to touch alien equipment. For 3 years she had been taking it apart, understanding it and finding its weaknesses. All 5 Quorum species used the same basic technology. That was their strength. Ships could work together seamlessly. Communication was instant across light years. Coordination was perfect. It was also their greatest weakness. Everything ran on quantum entanglement, one frequency band, one communication protocol. The Quorum had used this system for thousands of years. Why change what worked? Dr. CO had built a device that could broadcast a counter-frequency. It would disrupt quantum entanglement across the entire solar system for approximately 18 hours. The Quorum ships would lose all FTL communication. They couldn't call for help. They couldn't coordinate attacks. They would be isolated units instead of a unified fleet. She called it the silence pulse. In 3 hours, she would activate it. Engineer Nam worked in the hidden sections of Luna Base, making final preparations. The base looked dead from outside. Dark windows. No power signatures. The Quarium attack months ago had been successful. In reality, that attack had been allowed. Human engineers had opened specific vulnerabilities in Luna's shields. The Quarium weapon struck exactly where humanity wanted, causing dramatic but superficial damage. Civilians were evacuated loudly and publicly. The base went dark. But beneath the surface, 10,000 workers had been transforming Luna into a fortress. The entire dark side of the moon was now one massive weapons platform. Particle cannons that could vaporize ships at 100,000 kilometers. Missile batteries that could saturate orbital space with warheads. Kinetic accelerators that could throw chunks of lunar rock at relativistic speeds. Nam checked the power systems one last time. Everything was ready. When Admiral Kang gave the order, Luna Base would light up like a second sun. Aboard Eternal Dominance, Commander Lee played his role perfectly. He sat in his cell looking defeated. Quorum guards brought him food and water. They were not cruel. They saw no point in cruelty toward a defeated enemy. Lee had been counting. 5 guards rotated shifts. They walked predictable patrol patterns. The corridor outside his cell connected to 3 main passages. 2 led to ship systems. 1 led to the bridge. 4 other captured humans were scattered through the ship. They looked like defeated prisoners, but they were the best special operations soldiers Earth had ever trained. Each one had a specific mission when the time came. Lee had also been observing the Quorum crew. They were efficient but overconfident. They assumed humans were no threat. Guards weren't particularly alert. Security protocols were minimal. Why guard against an enemy that had already lost? That overconfidence would kill them. Major Cho gave a speech to the Mars colonists. She stood in the main dome looking out at the gathered people. Thousands of scared faces, children crying, adults holding each other. "I know you're afraid," she said. "I know this seems hopeless. But I need you to trust me for 3 more hours. Just 3 more hours," the colonists didn't understand. 3 hours until what? Surrender? Destruction? But Cho's officers understood. Beneath the base, secret troops were moving into position. Underground factories were loading final ammunition shipments. Hidden hangar bays were preparing to open. Mars was about to stop pretending. Admiral Kang stood in the Antarctic Command Center, watching the final countdown. 2 hours and 47 minutes until the ambush began. She felt calm. 3 years of planning were about to pay off. "All units report ready," General Park said. "Ghost Fleet confirms position," added Commander Silva. "Asteroid batteries armed and targeted." Colonel Han reported. "Submarine fighters ready for launch." Lieutenant Bay confirmed. "Luna Base charged to full power," Engineer Nam stated. "Silence pulse standing by," Dr. Seo announced. Kang looked at the holographic display. The Quorum fleet surrounded Earth like a cage. 847 capital ships. They thought they were unbeatable. They thought humanity was finished, Captain Tay, Kang said into her private channel. The captain appeared on her screen, still believing Earth was dying, still frustrated that no one listened to his warnings. "Yes, Admiral, you were right. Someone was sabotaging us. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before. I'm telling you now because in 3 hours you're going to see something impossible. When you do, I need you to trust that everything that happened was necessary." Tay looked confused.
"Admiral, I don't understand. You will."
"I promise. Now get to your battle station. We're about to go to war." Kang ended the call before Tay could respond. She turned to her command staff. "Gentlemen, ladies, we've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. 17 civilizations before us died because they fought the Quorum the traditional way. We're not going to do that. We're going to show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." She pulled up the battle plan one final time. Every element was in place. Every unit ready. The Quorum had no idea what was about to happen. "All units, this is Admiral Kang. In 2 hours and 30 minutes, we stop pretending. We stop looking weak. We stop acting scared. In 2 hours and 30 minutes, humanity shows the galaxy who we really are. Across the solar system, from the asteroid belt to beyond Neptune, from beneath Earth's oceans to the surface of Mars, thousands of soldiers heard her words. They checked their weapons. They said quiet prayers. They thought about everyone counting on them. The trap was set. The enemy was in position. All that remained was springing it. Commander Veshkar looked at Earth one last time before the deadline. Beautiful planet. Shame it produced such a dangerous species. But the galaxy would be safer with humanity contained. He had no idea that in a few hours his entire fleet would be fighting for survival. The countdown continued. Humanity held its breath. Commander Lee checked his instruments one last time before launching. The supply run to Mars was supposed to be routine. Food, medicine, replacement parts for the struggling colony. His crew of 23 was tired but ready. The ship, Indomitable Spirit, had made this journey 40 times before. But Lee knew this trip would be different. 3 weeks ago, Admiral Kang had called him to a private meeting. She told him things that seemed impossible. Aliens, sabotage, a coming war. She gave him orders that terrified him. "You're going to be captured," she had said, "and you're going to let them take you." Now, as Earth fell away behind him, Lee wondered if he would survive what came next. Major Cho stood in the Mars Command Center, watching supply ship trajectories. Olympus Base was struggling, or at least it appeared to be. Half the hydroponic gardens had failed last month. The backup water filtration system was running on emergency power. Food was rationed. People were scared. None of it was real. Cho walked through the damaged sections every day. She saw the fear in colonists' faces. They believed they were dying. They had to believe it. Anyone the Quorum captured and interrogated needed to give the same story. Mars was failing. Earth couldn't help. Humanity was finished. Only Cho and 14 other officers knew the truth. Beneath Olympus Base, hidden behind false walls and fake equipment failures, was a military installation that could rival anything on Earth. 3,000 soldiers waited in secret quarters, weapons filled hidden armories. The failed gardens were covers for underground manufacturing facilities producing ammunition and armor. Mars wasn't dying. Mars was a loaded gun aimed at whoever came close enough. Lee's ship reached the halfway point when his sensors started screaming. Multiple contacts. Big ones, moving fast. He activated the emergency channel. "This is Indomitable Spirit. I have unknown vessels approaching. They're not broadcasting identification." The response from Earth came immediately. "Spirit, can you evade?" "Negative. They're too fast. They're surrounding us." Lee's hands moved across the controls, but he wasn't trying to escape. He was positioning his ship exactly where it needed to be. His crew didn't know. They thought this was a real attack. Their fear would sell the deception. The alien ships were beautiful and terrible. Smooth surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Energy signatures that made human technology look like stone tools. They were massive, each one 3 times larger than Spirit. Lee's communication system activated without his input. A voice spoke. The words were translated by technology humanity didn't possess. "Human vessel. You will cease all movement. You will prepare for boarding." Lee looked at his crew. "Do exactly what they say." When the Quorum soldiers entered Spirit, Lee memorized everything. Their armor, their weapons, the way they moved, the language they spoke to each other. Every detail would matter later. The Quorum commander was tall, with skin that shimmered purple and gold. 4 arms, each ending in 3 delicate fingers. Eyes that saw into spectrums humans couldn't detect. "You are Commander Lee," the alien said. "We know your rank. We know your mission. Your species is dying, human. This supply run is pointless. Mars will fall. Earth will fall. It is inevitable." Lee made himself look defeated, scared. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you would have become dangerous. We have watched you for 2 centuries. Your growth, your violence, your ambition. We end such threats before they mature. We never did anything to you." The Quorum commander tilted its head. "That is precisely why you must end. You have not encountered us, yet you already reach for the stars. In another 100 years you would challenge us. In 200 you would surpass us. We do not allow that." Lee was taken to the Quorum command ship. His crew was confined but unharmed. The aliens were not cruel. They were simply efficient. Humanity was a problem to be solved, nothing more. What the Quorum didn't see was the small device Lee had activated before they boarded. It transmitted on frequencies the aliens couldn't detect. Every word the commander spoke was recorded. Every moment was transmitted back to Earth through quantum channels Dr. Yun had designed specifically for this moment. Back on Earth, Admiral Kang listened to the transmission with her command staff. They're overconfident. Perfect. On Mars, Major Cho watched her sensors as quorum ships appeared in the sky. Dozens of them. They didn't attack immediately. They established orbit, positioning themselves around the planet like a cage. A message came from the alien fleet. It was broadcast on every human frequency, audio and video, impossible to miss. The quorum diplomat appeared on screens across Mars and Earth. Its voice was calm, almost gentle. Humans of Earth and Mars, your species has been selected for guidance. Your expansion has been chaotic and dangerous. Your wars have been brutal. Your technology has been reckless. We are the Quorum Collective. We have guided 143 civilizations to stability and peace. We will guide you as well. Cho watched colonists gather around screens, listening in horror. You will deactivate all military vessels. You will surrender all space-based installations. You will accept Quorum oversight of your development. If you comply, you will be allowed to survive. If you resist, you will be removed. You have 48 hours to respond. The message ended. Across Mars, people started crying. Some fell to their knees. Others stared at the sky in disbelief. Cho activated her private channel to Earth. They bought it completely. They think we're helpless. Admiral Kang's voice came back steady and cold. Good. Let them think that for 46 more hours. Then we'll show them who's helpless. On Earth, the Quorum fleet was already moving into position. They appeared in orbit like ghosts, their stealth technology far beyond human capabilities. Except humanity had been studying that stealth technology for 3 years. Dr. Kim activated the Cassandra protocol from her lab in Seoul. It was a quantum communication network that couldn't be jammed, intercepted or detected by Quorum sensors. Every human military installation, every hidden base, every secret ship received the same message. Phase 2 confirmed. Enemy forces in position. Maintain deception for 46 hours. Then execute. Across Earth's oceans, submarine bases received the signal. Beneath the Antarctic ice, Admiral Kang confirmed receipt. In the asteroid belt, Colonel Han read the message and smiled. Far beyond Neptune, Captain Song checked his watch aboard the Ghost Fleet flagship and began final preparations. The Quorum had no idea what was waiting for them. Commander Lee sat in his cell aboard the alien command ship, watching the stars through a small window. The Quorum guards thought he was defeated. They saw a scared human captain who realized his species was finished. They didn't see the small smile on his face. They didn't know about the 5 other captured humans aboard this ship, all specially trained for what came next. They didn't realize that Lee had mapped every corridor, every control station, every weakness in this massive vessel. 46 hours, he thought. Then we stopped pretending. On Mars, Major Cho gave orders to her secret troops. They moved through hidden passages, checking weapons and armor. The underground factories increased production. Within 2 days, Mars would need every bullet, every missile, every weapon they had built. On Earth's moon, Luna Base appeared dark and lifeless. The Quorum had sabotaged it months ago, or so they believed. In reality, humans had used the attack as cover to evacuate civilians and militarize the entire installation. Now Luna Base was the largest weapons platform in the solar system, sitting dark and silent, waiting. Admiral Kang looked at the holographic display showing Quorum positions. 847 capital ships, thousands of smaller vessels, more firepower than humanity had ever imagined. They brought their entire invasion fleet, General Park said quietly. Just as we hoped, Kang replied. They wanted to crush us completely. Show other species what happens when you grow too fast. They committed everything, and trapped themselves in the process. Kang nodded. The Quorum had clustered their forces around Earth and Mars. They were in close orbit, perfect attack positions against helpless planets. But those same positions were perfect kill boxes for an enemy they didn't know existed. Humanity had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Every failure had taught them something. Every sabotage had given them data. Every crisis had been another piece of the trap. The Quorum thought they were predators circling wounded prey. They didn't realize they were standing in humanity's ambush. Captain Tay sat in his quarters aboard the defense station, staring at the data on his screen for the 5th time that week. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But nobody wanted to hear it. 3 mining operations had failed in the last 6 months. 2 colony ships had mysteriously lost power before reaching Mars. A disease had swept through the Luna settlement, killing 47 people. The official reports called it bad luck. Tay called it a pattern. He pulled up another file. 5 years ago, Earth's best fusion reactor had exploded during its final test. The investigation blamed human error. 2 years after that, the quantum communication network went dark for 3 weeks. Equipment failure, they said. Last year, the Mars water extraction facility collapsed, forcing 1,000 colonists to evacuate back to Earth. Tay made a list. Every incident, every failure, every death. When he mapped them on a timeline, he saw something that made his blood run cold. They were accelerating. 1 major failure every 2 years, then 1 every year. Now 3 and 6 months, someone was pushing humanity backwards. Someone was trying to kill them slowly. He requested a meeting with Admiral Kang 3 times. She finally agreed to see him on a Tuesday morning. Tay brought his files, his charts, his evidence. He laid it all out on her desk. Admiral, this is not coincidence. Someone is sabotaging us. These failures are too precise, too perfectly timed to cripple our expansion. Kang studied his charts. Her face remained calm, unreadable. After a long silence, she looked up at him. Captain Tay, I appreciate your dedication, but you're seeing patterns where none exist. Space is dangerous. We're a young species learning hard lessons. That's all this is. Tay felt frustration rise in his chest. Admiral, with respect, the probability of all these incidents being random is... That will be all, Captain. He left her office angry and confused. Kang was one of the smartest officers in the fleet. How could she not see it? What Tay didn't know was that Admiral Kang saw everything. She had seen it 3 years ago, long before he noticed. And she wasn't alone. That evening, Kang entered a secure room deep inside the Antarctic Command Center. 6 other officers waited for her. General Park from the Asian Defense Coalition, Commander Silva from the Americas, Director Okoro from the African Union. Each represented a different part of Earth's military structure. Tay figured it out, Kang said as she sat down. Is he a problem? Silva asked. No, he's exactly what we need. Smart enough to see the truth, but not smart enough to see the bigger truth. Park pulled up a holographic display. It showed the same incidents Tay had documented, but with additional information. Next to each human failure was a data spike. Energy signatures, communication intercepts, quantum fluctuations. The Quorum have been busy, Park said. They caused the reactor explosion. They infected Luna with a biological agent. They sabotaged our colony ships, Kang nodded. And we've let them. Every single time, Okoro smiled grimly. The Mars facility was particularly convincing. Our people barely escaped in time. It had to look real, Kang replied. The Quorum have been watching us for 200 years. They needed to believe we were failing naturally. 3 years ago, Earth's deepest space probes had detected something unusual, ships that appeared for microseconds before vanishing. Energy patterns that didn't match any known natural phenomenon. Earth's brightest scientists studied the data for months before reaching a terrifying conclusion. Humanity was being watched by something far more advanced. Then they found the first probe. It was hidden in the asteroid belt disguised as rock. Dr. Yun and her team spent 8 months studying it without triggering its self-destruct mechanisms. What they learned changed everything. The probe belonged to the Quorum Collective, 5 alien species working together. They had been observing Earth since the early 1800s, and they were afraid. The probe's database contained files on 17 other civilizations, all of them younger than the Quorum, all of them destroyed. The Quorum's method was elegant and cruel. They didn't invade. They sabotaged. They pushed developing species into chaos, economic collapse, and self-destruction. Then they waited for the civilization to die quietly. Humanity was next on their list. But the Quorum made one critical mistake. They assumed humans would react like the other 17 species. They expected panic, division, and collapse. Instead, Earth's leaders did something unexpected. They united in absolute secrecy and started planning. For 3 years, humanity had been running the greatest deception in history. Every failure, every crisis, every setback was theater. The Mars facility didn't collapse by accident. Earth's engineers rigged it to fail at the exact moment when Quorum surveillance would be watching. The colonists who evacuated actually went to hidden bases on Phobos and Deimos, Mars's moons. The disease on Luna wasn't disease. It was makeup and acting. Those 47 people were alive and well, working in secret laboratories beneath the lunar surface. Dr. Yun and engineer Park Sora led the real work. Every time the quorum sabotaged something, human scientists were there studying it, recording it, learning from it. They captured quorum technology pieces by pieces. They analyzed the energy weapons that destroyed the reactor. They dissected the biological agent from Luna. They reverse-engineered quantum interference patterns from the communication blackouts. Humanity was building a complete database of quorum capabilities. Their weapons, their tactics, their technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Kang pulled up another display in the command room. Park Sora's team finished the analysis yesterday. We now have full specifications on quorum ship construction. Dr. Yun confirmed their FTL systems use quantum entanglement on a single frequency band. One frequency, Silva said softly. One vulnerability. Exactly. We can shut down their entire communications network with one pulse. Park leaned forward. The question is timing. When do we spring the trap? When they commit fully, Kang replied. Right now they think we're dying slowly. They're patient, but our projections show they'll lose patience within the year. When they see Earth truly failing, they'll move in for the final strike. Okoro nodded. And that's when we'll have them exactly where we want them. The officers reviewed their preparations. The Ghost Fleet was 90% complete. 200 warships built in the darkness beyond Neptune, invisible to quorum sensors. The asteroid defense network was operational, disguised as mining operations across the belt. Luna Base was fortified beyond anything the quorum could imagine. Earth wasn't dying. Earth was preparing for war. Captain Tay would understand eventually. But for now, his frustration served a purpose. If he believed Earth was failing, the quorum would believe it too. Humanity needed to appear weak, divided, and desperate. The trap was set. All that remained was waiting for the predators to step inside. Admiral Kang looked at her fellow officers. Let them think they're winning. Let them think we're too stupid to see what they're doing. When they finally reveal themselves, we'll show them what humanity really is. Outside the window, Earth rotated peacefully in space. It looked vulnerable, alone. Perfect prey for an advanced alien civilization. That was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. The conference hall was silent. Not the good kind of silence that came from peace. This was the silence of fear. Ambassador Jathara stood in the center of the chamber, her forearms trembling. Around her, representatives from 847 different species waited for her to speak. She had served the Galactic Council for 300 years. In all that time, she had never seen such terror in the eyes of so many leaders. These were civilizations that had existed for millions of years. They had survived wars, plagues, and natural disasters. But nothing had prepared them for the Devourers. The first attack came 6 months ago. A mining colony on the edge of the Andromeda sector simply vanished. When scout ships arrived, they found nothing. No buildings, no bodies, not even rocks or dirt. Just empty space where a planet used to be. The entire world had been consumed. High Commander Vraxis stepped forward. His scales were usually bright green, but now they looked dull and gray. He activated the hologram display in the center of the room. Images of destruction filled the air above them. We have lost 42 worlds, Vraxis said. His voice was rough with exhaustion. That is 42 planets completely destroyed. Gone. We estimate 12 billion lives lost. A gasp went through the chamber. 12 billion. The number was too large to understand. Jathara felt her chest tighten. What are these Devourers? Someone asked from the back of the room. Vraxis touched the controls. The hologram changed to show a creature. It was massive and dark, with thousands of writhing tentacles. But it was not just one creature. The image zoomed out to show millions of them, all connected by glowing threads of energy. They are a hive mind, Vraxis explained. They think as one, they move as one, and they have only one purpose: to consume. They eat everything. Rock, metal, organic matter, even the atmosphere. They leave nothing behind. Can we fight them? Another voice called out. Vraxis looked down. That was answer enough. But he spoke anyway. We sent our combined fleet, 5,000 warships from 30 different species, the best weapons in the galaxy. We engaged them near the Theta Nebula. He paused. Jathara could see pain in his eyes. Only 3 ships came back, Vraxis continued. 3 ships out of 5,000. The Devourers destroyed the rest in less than 4 hours. Our weapons barely scratched them. And every ship they destroyed, they consumed. They are growing stronger with every battle. The room erupted in panicked voices. Some species began shouting in their native languages. Others simply stared in shock. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for 50,000 years. They had treaties and laws and diplomatic solutions for everything. But this enemy did not care about peace. This enemy could not be reasoned with. Jathara raised one of her arms. Slowly the chamber grew quiet again. There must be something we can do, she said. Some weapon we have not tried. Some ally we have not called. Vraxis shook his head. We have tried everything. We have used every weapon known to galactic civilization. We have called upon every military alliance. There is no one left to ask for help. What about the quarantine zones? Someone suggested. There are primitive civilizations in some of those sectors. Perhaps one of them could help. Several council members laughed bitterly at that suggestion. Primitive civilizations? What could they possibly do against a threat that had defeated the greatest military forces in the galaxy? But Jathara did not laugh. She was thinking. The Milky Way galaxy had been marked as a quarantine zone 500,000 years ago. The Council had decided the species there were too young, too violent, too dangerous to contact. They were to be left alone until they matured. But desperate times called for desperate measures. The Milky Way, she said suddenly. There is a species there. They call themselves humans. Our deep space probes have detected quantum signatures from their world. They are using advanced technology. They are spacefaring. Vraxis turned to look at her. The humans? They are listed as primitive, aggressive, dangerous. The Council voted to avoid contact with them. Yes, Jathara said. But that vote was made a very long time ago. They may have changed. They may have grown. And right now, they are the only ones we have not asked. The chamber fell silent again. Every eye turned to look at Jathara. What she was suggesting was against all council protocol. The quarantine zones existed for good reasons. But what choice did they have? If we do nothing, Jathara continued, we will all die. The Devourers are moving toward the core galaxies. In 3 months they will reach the heart of council space. We need help. Any help. Even from humans. After a long pause, Vraxis nodded slowly. Very well. We will send a message. But I do not think it will help. If we cannot stop the Devourers, with all our technology and millions of years of knowledge, what can a primitive species possibly do? Jathara did not answer. She did not know, but she had to try. 2 hours later, she stood in the communications room. The technician had prepared the message. It would be broadcast on all frequencies toward the Milky Way galaxy, toward Earth. The message was simple. We are the Galactic Council. We represent 847 civilized species. We are under attack by an enemy we cannot defeat. Our worlds are being destroyed. Our people are dying. If anyone can hear this message, we need help. Please. We are desperate. Anyone who can hear this, please help us. The technician looked at Jathara. She nodded. The message was sent. Now all they could do was wait. And hope. Hope that someone in that distant galaxy would hear their cry for help. Hope that they would care. Hope that they would come. But hope was all they had left. Dr. Sarah Chen was drinking her 3rd cup of coffee when the alert came through. It was 2 a.m. at the SETI Quantum Array facility in New Mexico. She had been on night shift for the past week, watching endless streams of data from deep space. Most nights nothing happened. Tonight was different. The computer screen flashed red. Then it began to beep. Not the usual random noise they sometimes picked up. This was a signal. A clear, structured, intelligent signal. Sarah sat up straight, her tiredness forgotten. Her hands shook as she began recording the data. The signal was coming from far away, very far away. beyond anything humanity had ever detected before. She ran it through the translation program. The computer worked for several minutes, analyzing patterns, comparing frequencies, building a language map. Then text began appearing on her screen. Sarah read the words. Then she read them again. Her heart was pounding. We are the Galactic Council. We represent 847 civilized species. We are under attack by an enemy we cannot defeat. Our worlds are being destroyed. Our people are dying. If anyone can hear this message, we need help. She grabbed her phone and called the director. He answered after 5 rings, his voice heavy with sleep. This better be important, Chen. We got a message, Sarah said. Her voice was barely a whisper. From aliens. They are asking for help. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, I will be there in 20 minutes. Within 6 hours, the facility was full of people. Scientists, military officers, government officials. Everyone wanted to see the message. Everyone wanted to know if it was real. Sarah played the recording over and over. She showed them the translation. She explained the quantum frequency. There was no doubt. This was not a hoax. This was not a test. This was real. Aliens existed, and they were in trouble. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Within 24 hours, every person on the planet knew. Aliens were real. They had been watching humanity, and now they needed help. President Elena Vasquez called an emergency meeting of the United Defense Coalition. Leaders from every nation gathered in Geneva. The room was filled with nervous energy. We need to decide how to respond, President Vasquez said. She looked tired but determined. We have never faced a decision like this before. Some argued they should ignore the message. It could be a trap. Maybe the aliens wanted to lure humanity into deep space and attack them. Others said humanity was not ready. They had only been spacefaring for 180 years. What could they do against an enemy that had defeated 847 alien species? But Admiral Marcus Wolf disagreed. He was an old soldier with gray hair and steady eyes. He had commanded the human defense fleet for 20 years. We have to help them, he said simply. Why? Someone asked. They are not our problem. Let them fight their own war. Wolf stood up. Because if we do not help them, we will be next. The message said these devourers are destroying entire worlds. If they finish with the Galactic Council, do you think they will stop? No, they will keep coming. And eventually they will reach Earth. The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. There is another reason, Wolf continued. For centuries we have wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now we know we are not. And the first thing we hear is a cry for help. What kind of species would we be if we turned our backs? What does that say about humanity? President Vasquez nodded slowly. You are right, Admiral. We will respond. But we must be careful. We do not know what we are walking into. Sarah was called in to help compose the response. She worked with a team of linguists and scientists. They debated every word. The message had to be clear. It had to be strong. But it also had to be careful. They could not reveal too much about human capabilities. After 12 hours of work, they had their message. It was short, simple, message received. Humanity is coming. Hold the line. They transmitted it toward the coordinates included in the alien message. Then they waited. 2 days later, they received a response. It was from Ambassador Jithara. Her message was full of gratitude and relief. She provided more details about the devourers. She sent tactical data. She gave them coordinates for a meeting point called the Bastion System. She also expressed surprise. She had not expected such a quick response. She had not expected humanity to agree to help at all. The Council records showed humans as primitive and dangerous. Sarah smiled when she read that part. Primitive. That word would come back to haunt them. Because what the Galactic Council did not know was that humanity had been preparing for war among the stars for nearly 2 centuries. When they first achieved faster-than-light travel, they encountered automated warning buoys at the edge of their solar system. The buoys made it clear, stay in your sector, do not explore, do not expand. Most species would have obeyed. But humans were not like most species. The warning made them suspicious, made them cautious, made them prepare, so humanity built warships, not exploration vessels, not colony ships, warships. They developed weapons that even they found frightening. They created military doctrines based on one simple principle. If we ever meet hostile aliens, we must be able to win. Now that preparation would be tested. Admiral Wolf stood on the bridge of the UDS Vengeance, the flagship of the human expeditionary force. Around him, 500 warships prepared for departure. They were sleek and dark, built for speed and destruction. Each one carried enough firepower to level a continent. Captain Yuki Tanaka approached him. She was young but brilliant, in charge of the Experimental Weapons Division. "All ships are ready, Admiral. We can leave when you give the order." Wolf looked at the star map. The Bastion system was far away, but their FTL drives were fast, much faster than anything the Galactic Council used. They would arrive in 3 weeks. He thought about the message, about desperate aliens begging for help, about an enemy that consumed entire worlds, about humanity taking its first real step onto the galactic stage. "Give the order," he said. "We are going to war." The fleet jumped into FTL space, 500 human warships disappearing in flashes of blue light. They were going to answer the call. They were going to help. But the Galactic Council had no idea what was really coming. Humanity was not coming to save them. Humanity was coming to teach the galaxy a very important lesson. When humans went to war, they did not fight to win. They fought to make absolutely certain the enemy could never threaten anyone ever again. Ambassador Jathara stood at the observation deck of the Bastion station. Through the massive windows she could see the remains of the Council fleet. 12,000 ships, that was all that remained from an alliance that once commanded millions of vessels. The ships looked tired. Many had scorch marks from battles with the Devourers. Some were held together with emergency repairs. Every single one had lost crew members. The mood throughout the fleet was dark. High Commander Vraxis joined her at the window. His scales had not regained their color. He looked like he had aged 100 years in the past few months. "The humans will arrive today," he said quietly. Jathara nodded. She felt both hope and worry. Hope that the humans could help. Worry that she had made a terrible mistake. "How many ships are they bringing?" Vraxis asked. "They said 500, Vraxis let out a bitter laugh. 500 ships, against an enemy that destroyed 5,000 of ours. What can 500 possibly do?" Jathara did not answer. She had been wondering the same thing. An alarm sounded. A technician called out from his station. "Jump signatures detected. Multiple contacts emerging from FTL." Everyone rushed to the windows. Space began to shimmer. Then the human fleet arrived. Jathara gasped. She had never seen ships like these before. Council ships were elegant. They were built for exploration and diplomacy, only armed when necessary. Even their warships had curved lines and bright colors. Human ships were different. They were angular and dark. They looked like weapons themselves. There was no decoration, no unnecessary features. Every line, every surface seemed designed for one purpose: war. 500 of them appeared in perfect formation. They moved with precision that suggested years of military training. Their hulls were black and gray, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. "This is impossible," a technician whispered. "Their FTL signatures are wrong. No ship should be able to travel that fast." Vraxis stared at the human fleet. For the first time in months, Jathara saw something besides despair in his eyes. She saw surprise, maybe even fear. "What are they?" he asked quietly. A communication request came through. It was from the lead human ship, the UDS Vengeance. Jathara accepted the call. A human face appeared on the screen. It was an older male with gray hair and hard eyes. He wore a military uniform. "I am Admiral Marcus Wolf of the Human Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. We are here to help." Jathara bowed. "Thank you, Admiral. I am Ambassador Jathara of the Galactic Council. We are grateful you came. But I must ask, is this all? 500 ships?" The human's expression did not change. "This is more than enough, Ambassador. We are not here to match your enemy in numbers. We are here to eliminate them." "Eliminate them?" Vraxis stepped forward. "We have been fighting these Devourers for months. They destroyed 5,000 of our best warships. They consume everything in their path. What makes you think 500 ships can stop them?" Admiral Wolf looked at Vraxis. "Because we do not fight the way you do, Commander. Humans have been at war with each other for our entire history. We learned very important lessons. We learned that there is only one way to truly win a war." "And what is that?" Vraxis asked. "Total destruction of the enemy's ability to ever fight again." The words hung in the air. Jathara felt a chill run down her spine. There was something in the Admiral's voice. Something cold. "Something absolute. We need to discuss strategy," Vraxis said. Our scouts report that a large Devourer fleet is heading this way. They will arrive in approximately 6 hours. We should coordinate our forces, understood, Wolf replied. We will review your tactical data. In the meantime, my fleet will take up defensive positions. When the Devourers arrive, please allow us to observe their attack patterns before engaging. Observe? Vraxis looked shocked. You want to just watch? We need to understand how they fight. How they move. How they coordinate. Humans believe in knowing the enemy before striking. Do not worry, Commander. We will not let them destroy your ships. The communication ended. Jathara and Vraxis looked at each other. I do not like this, Vraxis said. They are too confident, too calm. What if they cannot deliver on their promises? Then we all die, Jathara replied simply. But did you see their ships? Did you hear how he talked? These humans are different from us. They do not think like us, that is what worries me. 6 hours passed. The Devourer fleet emerged from the void. Sensors counted 100,000 bioships. They looked like massive insects crossed with deep-sea creatures. Each one was covered in writhing tentacles and glowing with sickly green light. The Council fleet moved into battle formation. 12,000 ships against 100,000. The math was not in their favor. The human fleet did not move. They stayed back, watching, scanning, learning. The Devourers attacked. The Council ships fired first. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space. Some hit their targets, burning holes in Devourer bioships. But the damage healed almost instantly. The ships regrew their wounds. The Devourers fired back. Their weapons were biological in nature, launching acid clouds and parasitic creatures. Council ships began to fall. Jathara watched in horror as 3 cruisers were consumed in minutes. Why are the humans not helping? Vraxis shouted. We are dying out there. Then Admiral Wolf's voice came over the communication channel. All Council ships fall back to minimum safe distance. Humans are now engaging. The human fleet moved forward. Not slowly. Not cautiously. They accelerated at speeds that should have torn the ships apart. They moved through space like predators closing in on prey. Jathara leaned forward, gripping the railing. The Devourers turned to face this new threat. They had numbers on their side. They had won every battle for months. They were confident. That confidence was about to be shattered. Admiral Wolf gave one simple order. Show them what happens when you threaten our neighbors. The human ships opened fire in the galaxy. Learned what true war looked like. The first volley from the human fleet was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Streaks of light crossed the void at incredible speed. These were not energy beams. These were physical projectiles moving at 99% the speed of light. Kinetic kill vehicles, simple chunks of dense metal accelerated to impossible velocities. When they hit the Devourer bioships, the results were catastrophic. The impact released more energy than a nuclear explosion. Entire sections of the Devourer fleet simply ceased to exist. Vaporized in an instant, Jathara could not speak. She could only stare. In one strike, the humans had destroyed more Devourers than the Council had in weeks of fighting. But the humans were not finished. The second wave of weapons was different. These were missiles, but not like any the Council used. As they approached the Devourer fleet, they exploded into clouds of smaller projectiles. Thousands of them. They spread out like a metal rain. Each projectile found a target. They punched through bioship hulls and detonated inside. The Devourers tried to regenerate, but something was wrong. Their healing abilities were not working. What are those weapons? Vraxis demanded. A human officer responded over the communication channel. Quantum disruption bombs. They prevent molecular reconstruction at the subatomic level. The Devourers cannot heal wounds caused by these weapons. The Devourer fleet began to panic. They had never faced an enemy that could permanently damage them. They tried to retreat, but the human ships were faster. Much faster. Human fighters swarmed through the Devourer ranks. They were small and quick, dodging the biological weapons with ease. They targeted weak points, destroying ship after ship with surgical precision. The larger human warships moved into optimal firing positions. They unleashed a new weapon, torpedoes that glowed with blue light. When they struck Devourer ships, the effect was terrifying. The torpedoes did not just destroy their targets. They sent energy pulses through the hive mind connections. One torpedo would hit one ship, and 10 other ships would convulse and die. The Devourer's greatest strength had become a weakness. Cascade torpedoes, Captain Tanaka explained. They exploit the neural links in hive mind species. 1 kill becomes 10 kills. Very efficient. Very efficient. Jathara felt sick. These humans spoke about destruction so casually, like they were discussing the weather. 2 hours into the battle, the Devourer fleet was in chaos. They had lost over 60,000 ships. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel. Vraxis watched the battle displays in stunned silence. This should not be possible. How are they doing this? Jathara had no answer. She was beginning to understand why the Council had quarantined humanity. These were not just warriors. These were beings who had turned warfare into a science, an art form. They had spent thousands of years fighting each other and learning from every battle. The Devourers tried one last desperate attack. They concentrated their remaining forces and charged directly at the human flagship. It was a suicide run, meant to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Admiral Wolf's voice remained calm. "Activate Sunderer Protocol, what is that?" Jathara asked nervously. "You will see," the Admiral replied. One of the human ships broke formation. It was smaller than the others, with a strange design. It moved toward the nearby star. Then it fired a single device into the star's corona. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star flickered. A massive solar flare erupted from its surface. But this was not a natural flare. It was directed, controlled. A beam of stellar fire that cut across space like a sword. The flare struck the charging Devourer fleet. Thousands of bioships were incinerated in seconds. The heat was so intense that even ships at the edge of the blast were damaged beyond repair. "They weaponized a star," Vraxis whispered. His voice was filled with equal parts awe and horror. After 4 hours, the battle was over. The Devourer fleet was destroyed. Every single ship. The human fleet had achieved total victory without losing a single vessel. The Council fleet remained in shocked silence. They had just witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. A perfect military victory. Admiral Wolf opened a channel to the station. "Battle concluded. Enemy forces eliminated. What are your orders, Ambassador?" Jathara struggled to find words. "You saved us. Thank you. We are eternally grateful." The Admiral's expression did not change. "We have not saved you yet. This was one fleet. Intelligence analysis of the debris shows these Devourers came from a home cluster. We tracked their quantum signature. We know where they are from." A cold feeling settled in Jathara's stomach. "What are you saying?" "I am saying we need to finish this. The Devourer species has 47 homeworlds in a cluster 300 light-years from here. As long as those worlds exist, they will continue to send fleets. Continue to consume, continue to kill." Vraxis stepped forward. "Are you suggesting we attack their homeworlds? That would be a war of aggression." "The Council does not approve of such actions." Admiral Wolf's eyes grew hard. "Commander, your species asked for our help. We came, we fought. We won. But if you want this threat truly eliminated, we must ensure it can never return. That means destroying the source, but those are entire worlds," Jathara said. "Billions of Devourers live there. Most are not warriors. They are civilians." "The Devourers do not have civilians," the Admiral replied coldly. "They are a hive mind. Every single one is part of the collective consciousness. Every single one shares responsibility for the attacks. Every single one will grow into a new fleet eventually." Jathara felt her hands trembling. "What you are describing is genocide." Wolf nodded. "Yes, it is, and I understand your moral concerns. But I need you to understand something about humanity. We have fought wars of extinction before, on our own world. We know the price. We know the cost. And we know that sometimes the only way to protect innocent life is to eliminate the threat completely." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You called us for help," we answered. "We came here prepared to do what you cannot, what you will not. We came prepared to make the hard choice, the terrible choice, so that you would not have to." The communication channel went silent. Jathara looked at Vraxis. She saw the same conflict in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. The humans had saved them. But at what cost? And what were they about to unleash? Admiral Wolf spoke again, his voice softer now. "I will give you 1 hour to discuss this with your council. But understand this, whether you approve or not, humanity will finish what we started. We did not travel across the galaxy to half-solve a problem. We will eliminate the Devourer threat completely. The only question is whether the Council stands with us or against us." The screen went dark. Jathara sat down heavily. She had thought humanity would be saviors, rescuers, Heroes. She had not expected them to be executioners. The emergency council session lasted 3 hours. Representatives from 847 species argued over what humanity proposed. Some agreed that the devourers must be destroyed completely. Others insisted that genocide could never be justified, no matter the circumstances. Dr. Sarah Chen sat in the human observation room, listening to the translation. She had joined the fleet as a diplomatic advisor. Now she wondered if that had been a mistake. Admiral Wolf stood beside her, his face unreadable. "We should not do this," Sarah said quietly. "There has to be another way." "What other way?" Wolf asked. "Containment? Negotiation? The devourers have consumed 42 worlds. They do not talk. They do not surrender. They only consume. What would you have us do?" "I do not know. But this feels wrong. We came here to help people, not to commit mass murder." Wolf turned to look at her. His eyes were tired but determined. "Dr. Chen, I have been a soldier for 40 years. I have seen war. Real war. I know what it does to people. I know the cost. But I also know what happens when you show mercy to an enemy that does not understand mercy." He gestured toward the star map showing devourer territory. "If we leave them alive, they will rebuild. They will send more fleets. More worlds will die. Maybe not today. Maybe not next year, but eventually. And when they do, it will be our fault. Because we had the chance to stop them and chose not to." Sarah had no answer to that. She knew he was right in a terrible, logical way. But it still felt wrong. The council vote came in. By a narrow margin, they authorized humanity to proceed. Many species voted against it. Others abstained. But enough agreed that the threat had to be eliminated. Jathara delivered the decision personally. She looked like she had aged decades. "May the ancestors forgive us for what we are about to allow." Wolf nodded. "I understand the weight of this decision, Ambassador. Know that humanity takes no pleasure in what we are about to do. But it must be done." The human fleet departed for devourer space. The council fleet did not follow. They chose to remain at the Bastion system. They wanted no part in what came next. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Vengeance as they approached the devourer home cluster. Through the windows, she could see 47 planets orbiting multiple stars. Sensors showed massive populations, billions of devourers. These worlds had no defensive fleets. All their military forces had been sent to attack Council space. The planets were vulnerable. Admiral Wolf stood at the command console. He looked at the planets for a long moment. Then he gave the order, "Execute obliteration protocol." Sarah closed her eyes. She could not watch. The human ships moved into position around the cluster. They deployed devices into the corona of each star, special weapons designed for one purpose: stellar manipulation. Captain Tanaka managed the operation with clinical precision. Devices synchronized. Countdown initiated. All systems nominal. Wolf stood silently, waiting. The countdown reached 0. The stars exploded, not naturally. These were forced detonations. The devices had destabilized the stellar cores, triggering premature supernovas. Multiple stars detonating at once. The blast waves expanded outward at the speed of light. They struck the devourer planets with unimaginable force. Entire worlds were vaporized in seconds. Atmospheres stripped away. Oceans boiled. Continents melted. 47 planets. Billions of lives. Gone. The human fleet watched from a safe distance. No one spoke. Even the experienced officers looked shaken. They had known this would happen, but seeing it was different. Sarah opened her eyes. The view screen showed expanding clouds of stellar debris where planets had once orbited. She felt tears on her face. "What have we done?" she whispered. Wolf did not answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "We did what was necessary. We eliminated a threat that would have destroyed countless other worlds. We saved billions of lives by taking billions of lives. Does that make it right?" "No," Wolf replied. It just makes it necessary. There is a difference. News of what happened spread through the galaxy within days. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions. Species that had voted for the action now questioned their choice. Species that had voted against it condemned humanity as monsters. The galaxy was divided. Some praised humanity as saviors who did what no one else could. Others feared humanity as potential conquerors who had shown they were willing to commit genocide. Jathara found herself in an impossible position. She had called humanity for help. She had voted to allow them to proceed. Now she had to live with the consequences. She met with Admiral Wolf one last time before the human fleet returned to Earth. "Do you regret what you did?" she asked. Wolf thought carefully before answering. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that we live in a universe where such actions are required. But I do not regret protecting innocent lives from a threat that would have killed them all. The galaxy is afraid of us now." "Yes," Wolf agreed. "And perhaps that is not entirely bad. Sometimes fear prevents conflict. Sometimes the threat of overwhelming force keeps the peace better than treaties. Is that how humanity wants to be known? As the species everyone fears?" "No," Wolf said firmly. "We want to be known as the species that answered when you called for help. As the species that did what needed to be done, no matter how hard. As the species that values life enough to protect it at any cost." He paused. "But we also understand that sometimes protection requires terrible choices, and we are willing to make those choices so that others do not have to." Jathara nodded slowly. She still did not know if calling humanity had been right, but she knew that without them, the Council would have fallen. The Devourers would have consumed everything. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen resigned from the military. She could not continue serving after what she had witnessed. Instead, she founded a new organization, the Galactic Peace Corps, an initiative designed to show the galaxy the other side of humanity. The side that built and created instead of destroyed. Admiral Wolf retired. He had done his duty. He had protected humanity and its new allies. But the weight of those 47 worlds haunted him. He spent his remaining years working with veterans, helping others cope with the terrible things war required. The galaxy would never forget what happened. The obliteration of the Devourer species became a defining moment in galactic history. The moment when humanity showed it was both the greatest hope and the deepest fear of the civilized galaxy. They had answered the cry for help. They had delivered obliteration, and now they would have to live with what that meant. 6 months after the obliteration, the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The Galactic Council convened in their grand chamber for the first time since the war ended. Every species sent representatives. Everyone wanted to discuss humanity. The chamber was divided into 3 main groups. The grateful sat on the right side. These were species whose worlds had been directly threatened by the Devourers. They believed humanity had saved them. They wanted humans as permanent allies and members of the Council. Species like the Vrathani, who had lost 3 colony worlds, spoke passionately about how humanity had succeeded where everyone else failed. The fearful occupied the left side. These species had not been in immediate danger from the Devourers. They saw only that humanity had destroyed 47 worlds and billions of lives. They argued for a new quarantine. They wanted humanity isolated, monitored, prevented from using such weapons ever again. The Zephyri delegation called humanity a greater threat than the Devourers had ever been. The pragmatic held the center. These species were torn. They acknowledged that humanity had saved the galaxy, but they were deeply uncomfortable with the methods used. They proposed restrictions, oversight, treaties that would limit human military capabilities while still allowing cooperation. Ambassador Jathara listened to days of debate. She had not slept well since the obliteration. Every night she saw those 47 worlds burning in her dreams. Finally, it was time for humanity to respond. President Elena Vasquez herself had come to address the council. She stood at the central podium, looking at the gathered species. The chamber fell silent. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began. Her voice was clear and strong. "I come before you today to address the concerns that have been raised about my species. I come to offer humanity's perspective. And I come to give you a choice." She paused, letting her words settle. 6 months ago, you sent a desperate message into the void. You were dying. Your fleets were destroyed. Your worlds were being consumed. You asked for help from anyone who could hear you. We heard, we came. We fought, we won. Some of you are grateful. You understand that we saved billions of lives by ending the Devourer threat permanently. You see us as allies, as friends. We value that friendship. Others among you are afraid. You look at our weapons and our methods and you see monsters. You fear that we might turn those weapons against you. That fear is not unreasonable. We are powerful. We are capable of terrible destruction. You have seen what we can do. President Vasquez looked directly at the fearful section. So let me be clear about something. Humanity did not come here to conquer. We did not come here to dominate. We came because it was the right thing to do. Because when someone cries for help, you answer. That is who we are. But I will not apologize for how we answered. We did what was necessary. We eliminated a threat that would have destroyed countless worlds. Yes, we used terrible weapons. Yes, we made a hard choice. But that choice saved your civilizations. She turned to address the entire assembly. There is something you should know about humanity. Something that might help you understand us better. The weapons we used against the Devourers? Those were not our most powerful weapons. Not even close. A shocked murmur ran through the chamber. We have weapons that can tear holes in reality. Weapons that can turn planets inside out. Weapons so destructive that we sealed them away centuries ago and swore never to use them. We brought none of those to this war. We used only what was necessary, only what was proportionate to the threat. The silence in the chamber was absolute. I tell you this not to threaten you. I tell you this so you understand. Humanity has the power to destroy, but we choose not to. We choose to build, to create, to protect. We choose to use our power only when there is no other option. Now you must make a choice. You can accept humanity as a member of the galactic community. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our protection. We will help you build a stronger, safer galaxy, or you can reject us. You can isolate us. You can try to contain us. We will respect that choice. We will return to our sector of space. We will leave you alone. President Vasquez's voice grew softer but more intense. But understand this. If you reject us, you reject the protection we offer. If another threat emerges, if another species decides to consume or conquer, do not expect us to answer your call again. We will not come running to save those who chose to treat us as enemies. The choice is yours. We do not need the Council. We are strong enough to stand alone. But we believe the galaxy is better when species work together, when they protect each other, when they answer the call for help. She stepped back from the podium. I await your decision. The Council debated for 3 more days. The vote was held in a closed session. Species argued late into the night. Some relationships were damaged. New alliances were formed. In the end, the decision was made. By a vote of 489 to 358, humanity was granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. There were conditions. Humanity would be subject to restrictions on weapon deployment. They would allow limited inspections of their military capabilities. They would agree to use force only as a last resort, and only with Council approval. President Vasquez accepted the conditions. She knew they would not last forever. As humanity proved itself, the restrictions would ease. Trust would grow, or it would not. Time would tell. Jathara was appointed as the official human liaison. She would be the bridge between humanity and the Council. It was fitting, she thought. She had made the call that brought them here. Now she would help manage the consequences. She met with President Vasquez after the vote. I still do not know if I did the right thing, Jathara admitted. Calling humanity, allowing the obliteration, so many died. President Vasquez nodded. I understand. The burden of difficult decisions never fully goes away. But consider this. How many billions of lives were saved? How many worlds were protected? The Devourers would have consumed everything. Now they are gone. The galaxy is safe. At what cost? At a terrible cost, Vasquez agreed. But that is the nature of survival. Sometimes there are no good choices. Only necessary ones. Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah Chen had established the Galactic Peace Corps. Human volunteers began arriving in Council space. Engineers helped rebuild destroyed worlds. Doctors provided medical care. Teachers shared knowledge. Artists created beauty. Slowly, the galaxy began to see another side of humanity. Not just the warriors and the weapons, but the dreamers and the builders. The species that could be gentle as well as fierce. It would take time. Trust was not built in days or months, but it was being built. Admiral Wolfe, now retired, watched these developments from Earth. He had given testimony to multiple investigations about the obliteration. He had answered every question honestly. He stood by his decisions, but he was glad he did not have to make such choices anymore. One evening he received a message from deep space. It was marked urgent. He opened it. The message was from an automated probe, one of thousands humanity had deployed throughout the galaxy after the war. This probe had detected something disturbing. In the void between galaxies, something was moving. Something massive. Something that had been dormant for millions of years. The probe's analysis suggested it had been awakened by the multiple supernova detonations. By the energy released during the obliteration, Wolfe read the report carefully. Then he forwarded it to President Vasquez with a simple note. We may have a new problem. President Vasquez addressed humanity that evening. She spoke from the Capitol building in Geneva, her face projected on screens around the world. 6 months ago, we answered a call for help. We traveled across the galaxy to fight an enemy that threatened all civilized life. We won, but victory came at a price. We had to make choices that will haunt us forever. We had to do things that changed how the galaxy sees us. Some species now call us heroes. Others call us monsters. The truth is probably somewhere in between. We are neither purely good nor purely evil. We are human. We are capable of great compassion and terrible violence. We can build and we can destroy. Now we must prove to the galaxy that we are more than our weapons. We must show them our art, our culture, our kindness. We must demonstrate that the strength that saved them can also be used to build a better future. She paused. But make no mistake. If another threat emerges, if innocent lives are in danger, humanity will answer the call again. We will do what is necessary. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is our promise to the galaxy, and that is our burden to bear. The galaxy cried for help. We answered with obliteration. Now we must prove that we can answer with creation as well. We must show them the best of humanity before they forget everything but the worst. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, people sat in quiet reflection. They knew their species had changed. They had stepped onto the galactic stage. They could never go back. In council space, Jathara watched the same broadcast. She thought about the future, about the complex relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy, about hope and fear and the thin line between them. And in the void between galaxies, something ancient stirred, something drawn by the light of dying stars, something that would soon test whether the galaxy had made the right choice, whether they had been wise to accept humanity as an ally, or whether they had invited something far more dangerous than the devourer.